Williamson is 10 times the world champion. Bax and Stupilis, they've done it again. Unbelievable. Marvin van Leeuwen certainly deserves the red plate. And what an incredible sport this is. Fast, high and spectacular. Unbelievable. Hello and welcome to all fans and friends of World Sidecarcross. We're in STELPE, Latvia for round 10 at the Palazzo Mototraza complex. There's a basketball track here, and Alan, the FIM official, had a new job. He was refereeing a friendly on Friday night where the top teams and passengers all fought against each other, and a lot of fun was had by all. The crowd enjoyed it, the teams enjoyed it, good team building, everyone was very, very competitive, and a great result.
This weekend, World Sidecarcross Championship returned to the Baltics. For round 10, we were in beautiful STELPE, Latvia. Before entering the long break, teams were really tested by this track. On quali day, we had 30 teams present and everyone qualified. Sunday race day, the summer heat tested everyone, and it was so challenging, but teams showed amazing racing with so many great battles. Did Hermans Musset succeed like they did last year, or was it Bax Stupilis who walked away with another victory? Well, for that you have to stay tuned and watch our highlights TV show. But first, let's start with a little recap.
Straßbessen back in Germany was the scene for the previous round, and it was also the scene for a dreadful weekend for Koen Hermans and Nicolas Musset.
We did also try the new engine, and in the qualifying race it broke, so we didn't finish, and that means we had to start on the second row on Sunday. And yeah, in the first heat we jumped in the back of, I think it was Compilati, but I'm not sure. And then my hand with the bar was going really fast. I can't remember how fast it was. So yeah, a lot of pain on my hand, and yeah, it was over for the whole day.
Defending champions Marvin van Leeuwen and Ben van den Bergart didn't have a bad weekend, but it was a weekend of mixed fortunes for them.
The speed was good. On the Saturday we struggled a little bit with the speed, but on the Sunday, yeah, small things, especially in the second heat. Our kill switch came out and we had to start from place 20-25 to the front.
They got going again and eventually made it through to 5th place, so it wasn't all bad.
Feeling on the bike is back good again, so yeah, we're ready to fight back.
Well, coming here, Kasper Stupilis and Etienne Bax have that magnificent lead now, easing away from Van Leeuwen. Koen Hermans is only 5 points ahead of Arne Djerkins, so that's where the battle was going to be here in STELPE. That proved to be the case. Stuart Brown moving up there as well. Daniel Willemsen here in STELPE, but was not riding. Santemans, Jake Brown going well. Koiben, Kinge as well. Veldman back on the case. Kusch, of course, here with Brian Anthony. Here on our 10-country tour of Europe, STELPE Latvia's up there in the northeast corner, bordering Estonia. It's a great track here. It's good to see Brett Wilkinson back in action, and out on the track with him is Steve Randall.
Sin, welcome Brett. It's good to have you back after your mishap in Lommel. This is your 3rd Grand Prix back. Well, here in STELPE, you like this track. It's one of your favourites, I believe. This start straight, one of the shorter ones that we have to do, and the left-hand chairs are fairly vulnerable. It's very important to get out of the gate. How do you prepare to get out of the gate to get a good start?
First, obviously, you need a good Saturday. Get a good position for the line Saturday. And then really you want to be starting far to the left if you're looking at, so you're closest to the corner. Okay. And try and be on the inside if you're on the left-hand side sidecar, because obviously the other sidecars can hit you quite hard. And
yeah, that's why the right-hand chairs and the left-hand chairs are especially vulnerable on this track and on this particular corner. We'll now move on to the next part of the track and show you some more. So we've now moved on to the next section of the track. This is one of the biggest tabletops on the track we have here. It's just over 25 metres in length. So Brett, for the left-hand sidecar, it is fairly difficult but critical that you get this jump correct.
Yeah, definitely critical. You'll make a lot of time in a lap. As the weekend goes on though, it gets really bumpy on the run up to it. So you have to be quite committed to make it every lap, but it's definitely doable.
And another question for you. I know there's 18 jumps per lap. Are they difficult to distinguish to get right? Does it take time, or do you have a set pattern that you learn them?
Yeah, like in morning warm-up or practice tomorrow morning, you'll probably do 3 or 4 laps, nice and steady, so you both know which jump you're hitting. And because STELPE's pretty difficult, some of the jumps you need to be going left before you hit the jump.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
And some are right, and yeah, it takes a little while to get used to, but it's good fun when you've learned them. Yeah.
Cool. So that's the next part of the track. We'll now move on and show you some more. So we've moved on to the next section of the track. You can see behind us a set of waves. 4 rollers, double in, double out. Rollers, waves and sidecars don't really mix. These are fairly jumpable. Not so easy for the left-hand chair.
No, it's hard to get the speed because obviously you're coming out of the corner with the passengers on the back, whereas the other side sidecar can make a bigger turn and more speed. So.
Can make it round and rail it round the outside and get more speed to come through. So the left-hand chair here again is important that they get the drive out to make these jumps to be able to stay with the leaders.
Cheers, guys. It's amazing. Build up towards qualifying, it's going to be so important here. Lots of teams with vested interest. This pair, Bax and Stupilis, trying to protect their lead, of course. They wanted to increase that lead round by round. They've certainly done that.
Yeah, the mood is good. Of course, it's home GP of Casper, and yeah, you know, it's nice weather. It's nice track, and I think Eriks did his best, and with good results. So. We're always happy to be here. There's some kind of smoothness in the paddock, and yeah, we're enjoying riding, and then that's the most important, I think. The track is well prepared, so yeah, we feel good on the track, and hopefully we can make a good day today and be settled for tomorrow.
Well, Herman Zumusse, 3rd in the standings at the moment, but only 5 points clear. How's this weekend going to pan out? Are they still in trouble, do you think?
Yeah, of course, this track is really nice. Everything is really good here. This morning we did try the new engine, but I was not so happy about this, so we changed the engine for the pre-qualifying. Then in the first lap I wanted to make a fast lap, but then on the jump I make a wrong turn with my hand, so it was pain again. And now we try some other things with my hand, and I hope it will be good for the quali race.
Well, the current number ones, Marvin van Luken and Ben van den Bogart, can see their title disappearing. This weekend, really, for them, is now or never time.
Yes, we are here in STELPE again. Yeah, it's very good to come here. It's very nice. The organization is always perfect. Track with a lot of jumps, 23 I think, so you have a lot of airtime. It's nice, but it's also heavy, and especially with temperature like this, 30 minutes plus 2 laps is yeah, very tough. So we're looking forward. The feeling was good. We had the first time in the pre-quali, so we were happy and we were ready to race.
Qualifying Group A, and Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupilis had taken the hard left-hand line. They had to get away because it was a tight run to the first left-hander, and they got an absolute flyer. Zeno Compilati was alongside Kern Hermans, so he and Bastien Chopin doing a great job. Hermans was pushed a little bit wide there. Christophe Couche and Brian Anthony, the Swiss Australian pair, were ahead of Stuart Brown and Josh Chamberlain, with son Jake and Joe Millard right in the mix as well. So the Browns, it was becoming a family affair as Jake Millard went on the inside underneath Koen Hermans, who ran wide into the loose stuff and had to recover from that. That was a brave move by Jake Brown with his left-hand sidecar. He and his father then got involved in a massive tussle, which Jake Brown was eventually to get the better of. He was chasing Stuart down race long. They were behind the Couches. In front of them were Compilati and Chopin, then the Couches, and then this battle with the Browns, and that raged race long. But the Swiss-Australian pairing, always good starters, going very, very well. Brian Anthony having pretty much sold his house and all his possessions to come over here into Europe to ride World Sidecar Cross. At the front, though, Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupilis were away with it, and they were looking as though they were heading for pole position in tomorrow's 2 Grand Prix races. Herman Zumusse, meanwhile, had got going. They got their problems sorted out, and they were very much on a mission, making their way through the field. And right in there behind the Browns, Hermans and Mousset closing them with Compilati at the head of this freight train of activity. Jake Brown round the outside, got the better of Father Stewart and was moving ahead, and next man to come under his hammer would be Compilati. The Couches, or rather Couche and Anthony, already having gone past. There was something approaching 19 or 20 jumps per lap on this incredibly demanding STELPE Moto Trasa circuit, and that's where the positions would be gained over the jumps as Hermans and Mousset lined up Couche and Anthony and moved one place further up the order. Next lap they did it. Brown then was coming under some pressure here as Hermans went round the outside and took his place. Couche, knowing that they were coming, had a look over the left shoulder. Once you start looking back, it's game over. Stuart Brown also would have seen the anxious glance from the Swiss. It would only be a matter of time before he nailed him as well. Compilati, meanwhile, doing a sterling job, but Jake Brown and Joe Millard were already ahead of him and pushing really, really hard. This was a fine ride by young Jake Brown, who has moved to Holland this year and is doing an awful lot of sand training. Compilati, though, was not going to take that lying down, and the Italian champion rode his boots off in this qualifying race in an effort to gain a good grid position for tomorrow. Was he able to fend off Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset? Well, it was only a matter of time before Mousset and Hermans made their move, and over the jumps they then took control of the Italian and were then in pursuit of Jake Brown. Jake Brown, however, was to hold them off and bring it home eventually to a very fine second place. But out in front, Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupelis were being just in control of this. They knew what they had to do. They had to claim that inside start place and hopefully make it to the first corner first in tomorrow's Grand Prix racing. This Group A qualifying turned out to be a dominant performance for Bax and Stupelis, who mastered every single one of these 19 or 20 jumps every lap without making any mistakes at all. This would be extremely hard going come race day in these hot conditions. It was already 27 degrees out there for qualifying, and that was tough stuff. But it was qualifying A, indeed, job done for Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupelis, with Jake Brown and Joe Millard grabbing second place ahead of a recovering Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset. Job done then for the top three. Over the line in third came Hermans and Nicolas Mousset, and a fine fourth place it was for Brett Wilkinson and Ryan Humphrey. Brett Wilkinson getting stronger and stronger ahead of Stuart Brown and Josh Chamberlain, with Compilati, Chopin coming home in sixth. There it is, the top 12 then going through and having their pick of the grid tomorrow. Bax, Brown, Hermans, Wilkinson, Brown Senior, Compilati, Couche and Kinch.
A whole shot always surprises me. Not so often we have a whole shot, so yeah, I was quite surprised. But I knew that after we take the whole shot that we could ride our own race, our own pace, and I think that yeah, went very well. We had a big gap to the second one, and we did not do any crazy things. So for me, I was quite happy about our riding, and I just hope that we can ride at least the same pace tomorrow.
Group B in this one was every bit as serious, but it was Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax who got the whole shot, and they did it again, streaked round the bend in the lead ahead of Marvin van Luken and Ben van den Bogart, with Adrian Petter, the German, actually going through the fence and rejoining. But Dierkens and Robbie Bax at the front really got the hammer down and charged through the freshly watered track. That gave them a huge advantage because they were filling everyone in. You saw Marvin van Luken already take off a rip-off as he went through behind and took all the mud and gunge off the back wheel of Arne Dierkens full in his face. And this is where Dierkens scored, because every time he got the whole shot, he was clear of this newly watered track and was out in front and staying nice and tidy. Justin Koiben And Pascal Leutenegger, a Swiss passenger joining him just for this weekend, well, so far as we knew anyway, was going really, really well in the hunt as well. Julian Veldman was doing his best to catch up. Santomans, Beletskas were at the sharp end in the early stages. It was all to change though, but what was not to change was Dierkens and Bax's dominance at the front. They were to hold off Marvin van Leeuwen and Ben van den Bogart all the way to the flag. Koiben held third place strongly. Veldman was coming through. Kurt Varek and Loris Dieders, the number 7 crew, were also very strong, battling their way through. But at the front, Arne Dierkens, who has proved to everybody that he and Robbie Bax are not just the hold-shot kids, they can also now sustain the pace, and believe me, sustaining any sort of pace in these arduous conditions in Stelpe over the weekend, unbelievably hot, unbelievably tough, and as you will see later in the show, some of the passengers were basically to almost collapse from exhaustion. This was a tough weekend, but qualifying therefore would be so vital to give the crews the start places they needed. Varek and Dieders got into the loose stuff and rejoined just ahead of Santomans. If you were to go wide in those berms, you were in deep trouble, you were in deep sand, and all hopes of victory would very, very quickly vanish. Julian Veldman and Glenn Janssens, the number 5 crew, were very soon on the back of Justin Koiben and Pascal Leutenegger, and it was only a matter of time before they were through, and the move was swift and sharp when it came. Varek then, the next to close down Koiben, having recovered from his excursion into the deep sand. The mud and water had already been pushed clear on the bends now, and we were just down to wet sand basically, but still the tear-offs were coming off, and you saw Koiben do exactly that just then. The ruts were digging out. There had been quad races between the qualifying heats, so the track was taking on something of a different character for these guys. Just as tough, and that's why that berm was being pushed out so much on the outside. Van Leeuwen, Van den Bogart, number 1, desperately trying to close down Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax, who were just doing an absolutely fantastic job. And if they could repeat this in tomorrow's Grand Prix races and get out of the gate, then they would indeed have a fine weekend. And they would have come here knowing that they were trailing Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset by just 5 points. So would third place in the standings change hands and go to Dierkens and Bax? Only time would tell, and it was a very, very exciting set of circumstances. Koiben holding off Varek. Was he to hold that for long? High in the air. No, he wasn't. Varek went through. Koiben then relegated one more time. Deeper into the qualifying session now, Arne Dierkens heading for victory on the final lap ahead of Van Leeuwen, Veldman. 4th place then was Varek, now ahead of Koiben, with Santomans doing a good job still in 6th, ahead of Normack and Rodionov, the Estonian. And in the air from Robbie Bax, a little wave, the checkered flag, and Group B qualifying went to them. Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax, a convincing display, which must have had Marvin van Leeuwen scratching his head. Meanwhile, Veldman was holding off Varek, and he was to do that all the way to the flag and collect 3rd place. A good result for Julian Veldman on the mega 2-stroke machine. Confirmation then of the Group B qualifying: Dierkens from Van Leeuwen, Veldman, Varek, Koiben, Santomans, Normack and Rodionov. What a win for Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax.
I really like to take the whole shot and take the win, so I'm very proud of the team.
And what about that loose radiator?
Yeah, I told Arne to not focus on the radiator, keep moving, so he focused on his race. I focused a little bit on the cooler, so.
Sidecarcross is a special sport and it calls for a very special sort of equipment. Like nothing you've ever seen or ridden on the road, these bikes are very different. Let's see what's inside them.
So welcome to this tech section. My name's Steve Randall. Just like to try and explain to you a little bit about these sidecars. They are one-offs. They are not similar. We have the left-hand sidecar here of the number 8, Brett Wilkinson and Ryan Humphreys. This machine is a WSP frame with a Zabel engine. I will try and talk you through some of the bits and pieces, some of the special items on these machines, and try and give you a little bit more insight of what one of these machines looks like. So we'll talk now a little bit about these engines. There are 3 types of engines that most of these people use. The ZM30, which is in this machine here now, is a 2-stroke engine, 4-speed gearbox, water-cooled, 700cc single cylinder. These will push out possibly around the 80 to 90 brake horsepower to the rear wheel. There are also a 4-stroke engine made by Glenn Woodman, the AMS engines, which are the big 700, start off as a Husqvarna engine, bored and tuned to just over 700cc. Mega have also just come onto the scene. You will see them being ridden. They are again a 700cc 2-stroke single cylinder, water cooled, again putting out around about 80 brake horsepower to the rear wheel. These ZM30 engines are reasonably easy to set up. You can either change the carburettor, you change the main jets, the pilot jets, to either let more fuel in or less fuel in to make them richer, to run leaner. You also can change a little bit about the gearing, the front sprockets and the rear sprockets that we'll have a look at later on. Most of the internals of these engines are already done. They have been polished to allow the airflow and the exhaust and the petrol mix all to flow smoothly to make these engines run nice and smooth. We'll now go on to the suspension and we'll look at that. So we'll now look at the suspension. There's 4 suspension units on each bike, 2 at the front, 1 in the middle for the rear, and then there's also 1 on the sidecar. They are all identical as you see here, and you can set them up all either independently or all together. Also, you have to set them up for different tracks. Sand tracks, you set them up to be fairly soft, not too progressive, so that they will take the bumps and the bike will actually ride through the bumps and not across the bumps. Hard tracks like we've just been to Stress Bessenbach and some of the ones that we will have later on in the year, the riders tend to set them up slightly harder because the tracks do not break up and do not become rutty. So they tend to set them a little harder. You can change the springs, you can change the settings, so the dampening settings, the compression settings. They're also quite complex. You have to get this right to get this machine to do what you want it to do. The last thing you want is the machine to be riding you. You need to be riding the machine. So suspension is very, very important.
Well, maybe you know a little bit more about these things now, and we'll be taking a deeper look later in the show. Race day then in STELPE. By golly, it was hot, I can tell you. It was almost 28 degrees, and the crews, with their usual meet and greet, this wonderful sporting complex, just the most amazing place. A lot of effort has been put into this, and we had a few words from Guntis Kalnin's chairman of the City Council ahead of proceedings at the riders' presentation. He was very impressed. The sports complex has been prepared very well, and a lot of work has been done by Eric Speladzis, the owner. We work with him on a regular basis and support him as much as we can, and we also provide him with help and finance. We're very pleased to have the opportunity to run such a prestigious event in our region, and maybe even show a small part of it to our visitors. We really hope the teams will return with family or friends at some stage for a holiday maybe sometime.
Vai draugiem kādreiz atgriežas un apskata mūsu novadu arī citā reizē.
And one of those teams, the young guns in particular, Julian Veldman and Glenn Janssens, were going really well in qualifying here.
Well, the track was in the morning was better than with the qualification yesterday. So yeah, the track was good. We just played some laps, and yeah, that's what we did this morning. So yeah, everything looks good for the race. So yeah, I'm happy with that. You need a good start here. If you don't take a good start, you are halfway in the field. So yeah, then it's not easy to pass everyone, because yeah, if you are halfway, the first 6 teams are already gone. So yeah, you need to be good with the start here.
The Latvians love their Sidecarcross, and there's huge local support for Kurt Varick and Laris Dieders.
Yeah, this is almost for me home track. The feeling is very good, and the track is very good. There is many supporters for me, and I hope good start we getting, and then I think top 5 will be for my place.
Well, this is how they line up. Etienne Bax posted the fastest time, so he grabs that all-important first choice of the grid with Arne Dierkens, who's been absolutely flying. Jake Brown has astonished everyone. The left-hand sidecar of he and Joe Millard seems to be working very well here. Marvin van Lukenen knows he's playing catch-up. What can he do? He'll be on the front row, though. Koen Herman's there as well. Looking further back, Compilati, Santemans, Christoph Kuch with the young Australian Brian Anthony, passengering Normac Kasasalu, George Kinge and Lewis Gray having a very respectable round 10 here in Stelpe. And Rodionov there, Gordiev, another of those Estonians, Diblik, and these are the guys, 30 go on the grid, everybody gets to start. And this the all-important build-up time, the height of Julian Veldman there, evident, standing next to Robbie Bax. This is a very, very tense time. Marvin van Lukenen, something of a mountain to climb to overhaul Etienne Bax, wind that deficit in. Well, will any of it happen today? As you will see, it was a tough call. Kasper Stupelis there knows what a tough job he's got ahead of him. Into the closing stages, the tension was rising, the heat was rising, and we had 2 fantastic races ahead of us. Race 1 was moments away in the sunshine at Stelpe. Well, like I say, the temperature was absolutely boiling as the 30 crews lined up and the gate went down. Etienne Bax from the inside got it all wrong, and it was the whole shot kids, Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax, who streaked into the lead with Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset tucked in behind. Jake Brown had a cracking start, Veldman had a good start. Etienne Bax at this point, he and Kasper Stupelis were somewhere down around 8th or 9th place. They took the inside line on the far left of the grid and it did not pay off. That's a gamble. You have to get the whole shot from that position. Arne Dierkens was alongside him and he did get the whole shot. Streaked into a lead, and just look at the way Dierkens and Bax are pulling away from Hermans and Mousset. It was another great start from the Italian Compilati, who was sitting there in 4th place behind Julian Veldman and Glenn Janssens. Marvin van Lukenen was on a charge. Jake Brown and Joe Millard and Brett Wilkinson and Ryan Humphrey crashed out, much to the consternation of everyone here, including me. Brett Wilkinson recently back from a serious back injury. This was the last thing he wanted in such a hot, hard race here at Stelpe. As it turned out, Brett Wilkinson was concussed. He had cuts and bruises, but he was shortly to walk back to the paddock but take no further part in the proceedings. But it was good to see Brett Wilkinson and Ryan Humphrey on their feet. Back in the race though, Dierkens and Bax moving away with Hermans trying everything he knew he was opening the book as much as he could to try and find a way past. Veldman and Janssens were still there in third. This is the move that Jake Brown and Joe Millard made on Zino Compilati and Bastien Chopin, the number 28 British crew, using their left-hand sidecar to terrific advantage to slide through. They were nicely positioned. Marvin van Leeuwen and Ben van den Bogart at this stage in the race were nicely placed in fourth position, with Etienne Bax having fought through. He and Casper Stupelis were right on the back of Marvin van Leeuwen and Ben van den Bogart, and those top five were really closing up. It was becoming a very, very tight affair. Arne Dierkens' pace at the front just marginally slower than the chasing Koen Hermans, who could not find a way past. The problem they had here was that the quads had been out for a 25-minute race, and the nature of the track, the lines had changed dramatically, and we effectively on the corners had only one racing line. The crew's finding it very difficult to find a way past, as you can see. Etienne Bax getting it all wrong on the inside of the number 51 Pulsar TAF, the Estonian crew, and that dropped Etienne Bax further back away from the top four. So he and Casper Stupelis lost ground on Marvin van Leeuwen and Ben van den Bogart, the number one crew, the reigning champions. Everyone wondered, would Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax, the number 10 crew at the head of the pack, be able to sustain this pace and keep Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset at bay? Well, the problem that Koen Hermans had was the nature of the track, and you can see clearly from those shots just how much it was digging out. Etienne Bax and Casper Stupelis were very quickly back with Marvin van Leeuwen and made their way through over the jump and on the inside of the turn to move into fourth place. So a magnificent effort from Bax and Stupelis from a dismal start, having to fight all the way through, and they were having to work extremely hard. Number 10 Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax still holding station at the front. A somewhat frustrated Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset, as a stranded outfit caused everyone to go wide into the loose stuff. Another problem they had is that those berms were getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and it just illustrated how deep that inside rut was. That was to be avoided at all costs, unless you wanted to find yourself in the same predicament of getting bogged in. Didn't bother Hermans though. He drove around on that inside line, sensing that it was the only opportunity he might have. Veldman and Janssens now on their own, as van Leeuwen and van den Bogart stopped, having got caught up in the green fencing. Van den Bogart disentangling that green netting, which is designed to stop the outfits running into the crowd. Some of it's still there though, but it did not impede the progress of the front wheel. But what it did do was drop them back almost into the clutches of the chasing pack. Van Leeuwen, van den Bogart lost time there. Dierkens and Robbie Bax were coming up against tail-enders. Now let's have a look. Kurt Varrick and Laurens Dijders were the crew that passed Van Leeuwen and van den Bogart as they had caught them up with that green netting round the front wheel. The pace at the front was absolutely frantic. The temperature on track, and this circuit with its 19 or 20 jumps, and I did a rough calculation in a 17-lap race, these guys would have been aviating the things about 320 times. You consider that for the passengers who take everything on their knees, their thigh muscles. But did that deter Robbie Bax? No, he and Arne Dierkens were on their way to a magnificent race one victory here. The checkered flag being waved, a fantastic effort for Etienne Bax and Casper Stupelis to fight up to third. Hermans and Mousset somewhat frustrated. They were still just a 0.6 of a second behind, but huge congratulations for Arne Dierkens and Robbie Bax taking race one victory in round 10 here in STELPE. A fantastic crowd gathering already now, just building through the afternoon. Even Arne Dierkens found that hard. Confirmation of that result: Dierkens, Hermans, Etienne Bax. Veldman hung on Jake Brown. What a great result for the British crew. Varrick, Brown got the better of Compilati. Marvin van Leeuwen has slipped further down the order Brown and Chamberlain 7th, but no mistaking the winner.
It was a long way to here. I think the team did a great effort. Robbie was amazing. The bike was amazing, thanks to the mechanic, the sponsors. And finally the whole shot paid off for 25 points. I'm really happy.
Did you ever feel that on your side wheel the thing was moving around differently?
No, I feel nothing. I focused on the lines. Robbie was guiding me a little bit.
Well, while the teams have a breather, we'll continue our look at the technical side of things.
So we're going to now talk about the tyres. There are two different front tyres they will use. We will either use a 20-inch front or a 21-inch front. The 20-inch is mainly for the hard pack surfaces to try and cut in to the dirt because there is not much dirt, but also with the 21 we use for the sand, so that the bike will sit up higher and dig into the sand and get more grip. The rear tyres, sometimes the guys will use tubes. There's not many that will use tubes because you can't afford to have a puncture in a big race. So they use what we call mousses. Now these are hard compound foam, and believe it or not, this will go into this. It's hard work, but it fits. You cut these down to make different compounds, to get different grips for different surfaces, for different tracks. And people have set ways and set tyres that they use. These big Mifos are good in the sand, so we'll see a lot of Mifos here this weekend. Normally they run either the Pirelli or the Dunlops on the front. It's down to rider's preference, but you need the grip. So these tyres, fresh tyres each race, and these mousses also. We'll now go on and look at the exhaust and some other special things on these machines. So I said we'd have a quick look at the exhaust. Most of the guys with the two-stroke Zabels use the Van Hasselt exhaust. The exhausts are quite important also because of noise. The noise boxes on these two strokes have to be 114 decibels. Nothing over 114 decibels, otherwise you will be disqualified. A couple of other items on these machines. Here you see what we call a steering damper. Without this steering damper, you will not be able to ride these bikes. The handlebars are just all over the place and they are very scary to ride without these. Another important part of the machine is the dead man's lanyard. Basically the rider will place this around his wrist like so. If he becomes detached from the machine, this then gets pulled out of the machine and this then cuts the engine dead and hopefully should stop the machine. Hopefully they don't have to use this too many times. So thanks for joining me on this tech session. I hope I've enlightened you a little bit to what one of these sidecars looks like, and hopefully it will make your enjoyment about watching this sport a little more. So my name's Steve Randall, thanks and see you again soon.
So now you know what makes these bikes tick, but more important things, these guys focusing on the track as well. They know they've got the machinery right with all those settings. Joe Miller with a thumbs up for us. And Robbie Bax, the heat was building, the tension was building, and the countdown to race 2 had begun. Doesn't matter whether you're riding a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke, whether you've got a mousse in or whether your brakes are set up, doesn't matter. It's all about riding now. And the old saying, when the gate drops, the talking stops. Can Arne Djerkens do it again? Can Marvin van Lukenen and Ben van den Bogart stay out of the fence this time? Can they go one better? Can Etienne Bax get it off the line? Race 2 then, the temperature was really up here, the gate dropped, and did Etienne Bax get it off the line? Well, he did, but not as well as Arne Djerkens or Robbie Bax, who streaked into another lead. But this time, Etienne Bax was third, nay, second, moving quickly into second place ahead of Koen Hermans and Marvin van Lukenen sitting there in fourth. So the guys sitting at the top of the championship were riding high in this race. And the important thing as far as Koen Hermans, number 2, was concerned was that in the race 1 he lost even more points to Arne Dierkens, the race winner, who came here just trailing him by 5, so there was virtually nothing separating Koen Hermans and Dierkens from 3rd place in the championship, and Arne Dierkens was out front doing it again. So as far as the number 2 crew, Hermans and Museeuw, were concerned, this was damage limitation. They had to somehow wind Arne Dierkens in and prevent him from overtaking them in the championship. Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupelis, meanwhile, sitting in 2nd place, extended their championship lead in race 1, and that is something that Bax had gone on record as saying he wanted to eke out the points advantage every single race, and so far in the 2019 season he and Kasper Stupelis here on home ground had managed to do just that. Van Lukener and Ben van den Bogart, the number 1 defending champions, needed to pounce now. They needed to act here because there are only 8 more races, 4 rounds following the STELPE round. Varkendaider's going strongly in these adverse conditions over this very, very strenuous and testing track. Bax and Stupelis, meanwhile, looking for the lead, and already passenger fatigue was beginning to set in. We'd seen 1 or 2 mistakes from passengers even in the early laps of the race. 1 or 2 were signalling to their drivers, just don't go too hard over the jumps, just take it easy. The heat is crippling us here. If we're going to bring it home after 30 minutes plus 2 laps, we have to ride conservatively. Dierkens and Bax, though, no such conservation for them. They were pushing on at the front, and Marvin van Lukener trying very hard now to wrestle 2nd place from Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupelis, and that was a ragged move for Bax, already beginning to look not quite as composed as we've seen him, the red plate holder. And if you watch Kasper Stupelis, the passenger, he is using his effort economically as well, not wanting to burn themselves out. Such a long way to go in these arduous conditions. And there you saw Kasper Stupelis almost squatting down in the sidecar, having got his leg a bit tangled up on the exit from that right-handed bend. And there was more to come from Stupelis, and he was not the only one in trouble in the heat here. Out in the lead now, Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupelis stretching away. They had time to cool the pace. Still 2nd, it was Dierkens and Robbie Bax, and in 3rd place it was Van Lukener pushing hard. Jake Brown and Joe Millard were going well, with Father Stewart not far behind, but then they ran wide on a berm and almost tipped it over. When you get into the loose stuff like that, there is nothing a passenger can do to stop it tipping over. But they regained their composure, but what that did was allow Father Stewart to close in, and he was eventually to go past and claim the place. Brown and Chamberlain, Stuart Brown and Josh Chamberlain moving up to 5th place in the final analysis. Meanwhile, the race at the front was going on. Marvin van Lukener, and if you looked at Ben van den Bogart's body language, he was beginning to become really tired. Dropped back behind Koen Hermans. Hermans was on a mission. Van Lukener, from this point in the race, began to slip backwards. Was eventually to lose out to Varkendaider's and indeed Brown and Chamberlain. That was the moment when Kasper Stupelis lost his footing, dropped out of the sidecar, but the strength of the guy, the Latvian passenger who's the hero of the darling crowd here, wound himself back in, got back on with the job. But when someone like Kasper Stupelis makes that sort of mistake, you know how tough it was. But they took victory ahead of Dierkens and Robbie Bax, who would claim the overall victory. It was a tough race, and a number of passengers were utterly exhausted, not least of all Robbie Bax. Arne Dierkens, Robbie Bax, overall winners then. Etienne and Hermans, that was the podium here, 47, 45 and 42 points. Kurt Varrick taking 4th overall from Julian Veldman. Stuart Brown achieved 6th overall ahead of his son Jake and Joe Millard. Van Lukener 8th overall. Amazing battles all the way down the field, but nobody fought harder than Hermans and Mousset.
Yeah, we are feeling good. It's on podium, it's better than the other times. A lot of bad luck at the other GPs. So yeah, we are back on the podium, and I think we have shown our speed here on this track, like last year also. But now it was really difficult to pass someone. So yeah, it is how it is, and yeah, we are happy with this result.
Well, the guys with the red plate march on at the top of the standings. What a superb race 2 victory for Etienne Bax and Kasper Stupelis.
The heat here is maybe only 30 or 32 degrees, but the pressure is very high, the air pressure, and I'm quite exhausted actually, and it's not often like this. The last 3 laps I really need to focus on the lines, because I started to see double, and yeah. But that's no excuse. We had a good race, and we need to push really hard in the first couple laps to overtake Dirkis. Eventually it worked. It's not so easy to overtake, and I'm really quite happy with this day. You know, we gained some extra points on the concurrence, and we're quite safe now. Okay, nothing is. We cannot relax now, but you know, it's going in a good direction, and I'm really happy with that. And I want to thank to my team. You know, we had no DNF. We had a super solid season so far, and I'm really thankful to my guys.
Emotionally drained Etienne Bax, I'm not surprised, but the youngster who did it, double hole shot, moves third. Arne Jerkins, what a star.
Yeah, it is just amazing. We came from really far this winter. I broke my knee. I almost did 5-0, and I rebuilt the team. I have really good mechanics, really good passenger, and then we take it step by step. The starts are always on point, and the fitness is now good, so we can finish the race in front, and it's just incredible here for such a big crowd and live on television to win my first GPS.
There it is then, Jerkins moves into third place, but level on points with Koen Hermans and Nicolas Mousset. Etienne Bax, Kasper Stupelis extend their lead at the top. Jake Brown and Joe Millard did themselves a power of good here. Daniel Willemsen did not ride, so he's slipping back. Veldman goes further up the table. So it's all to play for when we move on to the next round. Round 11 comes from Roggenburg in Switzerland. Join us there, because this has been terrific. From me, Barry Nutley, thanks for being with us. Has Etienne Bax got one hand on the trophy? Well, only time will tell, but we love you all. Thanks again. See you soon. But for now, bye-bye.
We never stop, so go on when you finish. And even when we bleed, still believe that we can win this. We got what's underneath, you're all about that image. We never even stop at the top, no limits. Champions, and we're the champions. And we're the champions. And we're the champions. So bring it on.
Willemsen is 10 times the world champion. Bax and Stupelis, they've done it again. Unbelievable. Marvin van Leeuwen certainly deserves the red plate. And what an incredible sport this is. Fast, high and spectacular. Unbelievable.